Welcome, this is Thaemine Gate2 guide. This video contains both normal and hard mode gimmicks. If there's a difference, I will refer to it before I explain the mech. For the eye level, normal requires 1610 and hard requires 1630. For the cards, you run Light Salvation. Gate 2 boss is demon type and he's tauntable only on phase 1. Battle items: Time Stop, Dark Grenade, and Sacred Charm. Time Stop can be changed to Atropine when you get used to the patterns, but normally it's safer to bring Time Stop since there are some one-shot patterns and death by falling as well. Dark Grenade for faster DPS, Sacred Charm to cleanse the shock CC that the boss does often. This boss has 180 HP bars. Raid system: from 180 to 135 HP, there's a purple dragon that combo attacks with the boss. It does 3 different kinds of attacks, and all the attacks apply debuff called Weakness to the players. This debuff increases the player's incoming damage, and it can be stacked up to around 5. 1. The dragon breathes in a line. 2. The dragon shoots 4 snakes to one direction. 3. The dragon summons a wave that pushes the players all the way to the edge. The debuff itself is not that lethal, but there's something that's important. Periodically, white lightnings strike the field. If you get hit by it, you get shocked, and when you had debuff stacks, then a purple explosion happens which does massive damage. The more debuff stacks you had, the stronger the damage is. Major gimmicks: the following pattern only comes out in the hard mode. Around 152 HP, the boss jumps to the center and destroys the half of the field. From this point, you can fall and die if you get pushed to the destroyed edge. Do you remember the wave pattern that the purple dragon does? That pattern is especially lethal since it can push you to the edge. Around 135 HP, a cutscene happens. After it ends, the other side of the field gets destroyed. In the normal mode, it destroys both of the field. All the players must gather to the center. Soon, the camera angle changes. At the same time, the lightning strikes on where the players are. When the camera angle is trying to change, you can hear a zapping sound before the lightning strikes. That's when you spacebar. If some players got zapped, use a cleanse skill or a sacred charm to free them. After that, the boss starts to shoot orbs for 7 times that require counter. If a player succeeds the counter, then he gets silenced and cannot use any skills, so all 7 people have to counter each orbs. The way to do this is assigning the order from Party 1 number 1 to Party 2 number 3. Every time players succeed a counter, they have to stand in U shape, because after a few seconds, players get puddled, so they have to make some distance in between and stand in U shape to optimize the field. The last player, who is Party 2 number 4, should stand in front of the boss since he will also require a counter after all 7 orbs. He may show red counter which is fake, so you have to watch carefully and counter the blue one. If the last player succeeds the counter, then everyone gathers to the bottom side. The boss jumps to the center. Soon, the lightning strikes on where the players are. Just spacebar after hearing the zapping sound effect, and stay in the safe zone where there's no yellow telegraph. This is the end of the gimmick. If any players fail the counter on the orb or the boss, or even counters the fake one, then that's a raid wipe. After the boss transforms to a dragon, the camera angle changes, and the boss requires counter. Other players should attack the barricade. The goal here is to run away from the darkness. If you get caught by it, then you will die. This part on the split ways, you can see the lightning. This shocks the players, so if someone got caught, then you have to free him by using cleanse skills or sacred charm. After you cross the split ways, players have to wait for the other players. Soon, the boss peeks out which requires counter. You must succeed a counter. During this runaway mech, the boss will require a counter for several times. You have to succeed a counter for a certain amount to use hidden Azena later on. I will explain this in detail as we move on. So this counter you see at this spot is the first counter. Be careful when you counter since it can show a red fake counter. If you hit the fake ones, then he shocks the players, which is really bad. So when it shows red, just stay, and then boss will eventually turn blue. That's when you counter. This part, the lightning strikes on the field. Lot of people get shocked in this part. The best is you just spacebar through this area. Save the other players if they get shocked. From here, one of the paths will collapse, so you just have to walk through the safe one. The mobs will start to hinder your way. Killing the mobs will help the party to move on. Here, at this spot, the second counter comes out. Succeed the counter and move on. Here, the third counter comes out. For this counter, sometimes the boss requires stagger check instead of counter. The stagger is not tight, so just stagger or counter it and move on. Here, the fourth counter comes out. Watch out for the fake counters. Now up to here, if you succeed at least 3 counters out of 4, then you can use Hidden Azena later on. Hidden Azena in this raid is really important, so it's better to succeed 3 counters. By the way, the stagger on the third one is also counted as success. If you hit the red fake counter, then it counts as a fail. After you cross the splitway, you will arrive to a large territory. Lot of mobs will spawn here, and all you have to watch out is these 3 mobs. These mobs charge to the players and explode. All the players should stick to the far right side because if you don't, then you can get pushed to the left side edge, which is a death by falling. If there's a destroyer or a gun lancer in the party, they can just taunt these mobs, which makes them explode right away. This makes the party safer. After killing all the mobs, destroy the barricade in the front. After you cross a splitway, 5th counter comes out. Be careful for the red ones. By the way, this counter does not get counted for the Hidden Azena. Watch out for the lightnings on your way. If you move all the way to this large area, then the boss will try to land on the ground, which can kill you by pushing you out of the field. Stay on the 5 o'clock direction since that's the safe zone. Then the fight continues. If you combat for around 30 seconds, then the boss will flap his wings. The raid leader should use Azena exactly at this timing. Then the Hidden Azena appears, which does massive damage to the boss, plus free DPS time. This wing flap pattern only comes out if you succeeded 3 counters out of 4 from the runaway mech. If you fail the counters, then he will show a different pattern which you cannot use the Hidden Azena. After the free DPS, the runaway mech continues. Destroy the barricade on the left side and move on. Here, you can see a counter and a laser coming from the boss. For this second runaway, counter doesn't matter on anything, so it's better to ignore it than risking it. The laser can kill you by falling. At the end of the path, the boss requires counter. It's better to counter since he will shoot a laser that can hit all the players in the way. It can show fake counters, so watch carefully and then counter. If a player arrives to the end of the path by the time he lands, then the boss will not require counter. Destroy the barricade in the front. Watch out for the lightnings. If you arrive here, the boss will land in the center with the yellow telegraph. If you get hit by it, you will fall and die, so stay away. Now the phase 2 starts. Phase 2. There's an important raid system in this phase. Periodically, the boss looks up and summons tornadoes. At the same time, 4 players get a purple debuff below their character. You can also see the debuff above your mana bar. After a few seconds, the purple puddle generates where the players are. If a player stands on the puddle, he receives a lot of damage and also gets slowed. Because of this, you have to put the puddles on the outer side. If the puddles are overlapped, then it creates a larger puddle, which is bad. Let me explain this in detail later. The biggest problem of the puddle is, if there are 8 or more puddles in the field, then the boss does AoE attack. In the normal mode, you can survive this by clicking time stop. In the hard mode, it's a raid wipe. Fortunately, there is a way to erase the puddles. Periodically, the boss teleports to the center with lightning attacks. One person will have 2 eyes above the character. At the same time, 3 white orbs will be generated. This is what the team should do. 3 players stick close to each orbs. The orb will follow the closest player. You aggro the orb to where the puddles are. When the orb reaches the puddle, touch the orb so that it can explode. This will erase the puddle that got hit. The person who has 2 eyes will get the aggro of the boss. The boss will look at him and flaps the wings on the side direction after a few seconds. This wing flap knocks out the players who got hit, so this can mess up the people who are aggroing the orbs. To prevent that, you put the puddles on either 12 or 6 o'clock, and the player with the eye mark also stays on either directions, so that the wing flap happens on 3 and 9 o'clock directions. Also, you can erase more than one puddle with one white orb. Like in this case, if you aggro the orb in between the puddles and touch it, then it will erase both of them. In phase 2, until the boss's HP reaches 72, he does a periodical pattern. The boss stands up with his wings and starts stomping the ground 3 times in a row. Every time he stomps, a spike comes out from the ground which airbornes the player. This happens to all 8 people. You just have to walk around and dodge them. After the 3rd stomp, the boss shows big red telegraph. At the same time, several players will get a purple puddle debuff beneath their characters. This debuff will generate puddle when the red telegraph fills the circle. After a second, the boss will pound the ground. Any puddles that touches the red telegraph will be erased. So in short, this pattern generates a lot of puddles, but you can also erase all of them right away, so eventually you get 0 puddles. You want to stand on the edge part of the red telegraph and walk out when the puddle is made. If you overlap the puddles, then it creates a larger puddle, and if it touches the red telegraph, then it attacks the whole field. This attack is time stoppable. If you fail to time stop, then it will kill you. Around 72 HP, the boss teleports to the center. He will then show the color of his shield while requesting stagger. You can also see a lot of purple and white orbs on the field. This stagger check is done by pushing the orbs to the boss that have opposite color of his shield. You can do that by hitting the orb to the boss's direction. When the orb reaches the boss, then it does a lot of stagger, so you have to put several orbs to stagger him. If you push the orb that has wrong color, then it will explode, which does massive damage to the players. Also, you can see that one player gets 2 eyes above him at the start of the mech. After a few seconds, the boss shoots laser to that player. This laser can kill the players by falling. Moreover, if the laser hits any of the orbs, then the orb will explode as well. So the aggro player should stay in the place where there's no orbs and dodge the laser when the yellow telegraph is shown. If you miss too many orbs, then it's a raid wipe. But if you only miss a few orbs, then the boss will have a small amount of stagger check left. In that case, the party can try to stagger the boss by using skills. But again, be careful for the laser. If you succeed the stagger, then that's the end of this mech. After the 72 mech, the boss does 2 kinds of periodical patterns. First one is called hiding behind the wall. The boss moves to the center showing the telegraph of safe zone in the center. All the players have to gather to the center since the purple fog on the other side does damage to the players with slow debuff. When the fog disappears, the boss slams the ground. You want to spacebar out before that happens. You will see lightning walls surrounding the field. Also, spikes will come out from the ground that airborne the players. This happens 3 times, so just circle around and dodge them. Then only 2 walls will remain, and others will disappear. At the same time, waves will come out from the center. This wave does fast tick damage, and each does like 100k. It can also push you out of the field, which is a death by falling. But by hiding behind the wall, you can dodge it. There is a way to figure out which 2 walls will be left. If you see the walls, the one that is glowing brighter in the center part is the one that will be left. The other one is always in the opposite side of the direction. You can also time stop the wave. The second one is called Sky Strike. This one only comes out in the hard mode. The camera zooms out and the boss flies up in the air. You have to go to the direction where he appears since he will strike all the field except for that part. The safe zone is like a small cone of pizza. This strike does massive damage and it can also kill you by falling. Around 20 HP, the boss disappears and the field becomes darker and smaller. You will encounter 3 waves of mobs, and you have to kill them as soon as possible. First wave is a bunch of weak mobs. Just stay in the center until they gather and then kill them all. Second wave is 4 strong mobs. These mobs do lightning strikes, and because of that, a lot of people die by the explosion from the weakness debuff stacks which I mentioned earlier. Shield, damage reduction, cleanse are really important for this wave. Dodge the lightnings and kill all the mobs. In the third wave, 2 bosses come out from each edge. One of the bosses will require a counter. Don't counter this pattern. All the players should gather to the center and then dodge the lightning strike, and stay out of his path when he charges. When they are gathered, the raid leader uses Thaemine and hit both of the bosses since they have a lot of HP. If the Thaemine lands on both of them, then one will die and the other one will still have a little bit of HP left. Use the skills to kill it. If you succeed killing all the mobs, then that's the end of this whole gimmick, and the boss gets staggered. If you fail to kill all the waves in time, then white explosion happens in the center that kills all the players. If you time stop as soon as you see the explosion, then you can live. But the problem is, the boss heals up to around 35 HP bars. He will not do this mech anymore even if his HP reaches 20 HP again, but unless everyone is alive, you will pretty much lack DPS, so it's just better to kill all the waves. You have around 1 minute to kill all the waves. Okay, let's move on to the normal patterns. I will only cover some of the important ones. Phase 1. Dash and 6 ways. The boss charges forward and uppercuts, which generates AoE attack on 6 directions. This attack is counterable before he tries to charge. Also, it's an opening pattern when the raid starts. For the opening, it's not counterable. Grab. The boss swipes his hand halfway and grabs all the players in that path. Then he throws the players and breathes, which applies weakness debuff. In the hard mode, after the half of the field is destroyed, this pattern can be countered before he tries to throw the players. The throw can kill people by falling, so you must counter. Vanish and grab. The boss vanishes by striking lightnings in the field. Then he tries to grab a player. If someone is grabbed, then he slams that player, which does AoE attack on the other side. This yellow attack can kill the players by falling. Phase 2. Yellow Cone. The boss puts his wing on the floor and attacks a player with yellow cone for 2 times. This attack can kill you by falling. The person who has aggro should just move sideways rather than turning all the way around since it can kill others. Counter patterns. Bulldozer. This pattern comes out from the start of phase 2 to 72 HP. The boss puts both of his wings on the floor and grinds the front. If a player is in the path, then he gets grabbed and thrown away, which can kill him by falling. The counter happens immediately when the pattern starts, so it has a very small window to react. Left wing swipe. The boss puts his left wing on the side and swipes the ground, which airbornes the players in the front. Then he requires counter. If it fails, then he punches the ground, which generates lightning strikes on the players. The lightning procs explosion if you have weakness debuff stacks. You can use skills that have push immunity to ignore the airborne from the first swipe and then counter him. Backstep and lightning trail. The boss shows red rectangle telegraph and backsteps. Then he leaves lightning trails in the front. The trail shocks you if you stand on it, so move to the backside of the boss when he backsteps. Snakes. Purple whirlwind swirls around the boss and then he turns around shooting snakes. This applies weakness debuff. You can stick close by using push immunity skills, or just move out and stay on the safe zone where the snakes don't come out. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching and hit the like and sub if you liked it. See you guys on the next video. Stay Giga Shed.